One of the most important questions in college football this year is what's going to happen with Texas A&M's offense. This is what we always call a keystone story because the reverberations, based on the way this turns out, will affect the entire sport. Because if it works out, hiring Bobby Petrino as your offensive coordinator, if it works out, A&M could contend for the West. And you laugh at me right now. No, their talent roster is really that good. They just screwed it up 9 ways from Sunday last year. They're that good. But if it goes sideways, it could go really sideways. I don't think it's too hard for you to envision Bobby Petrino, who's coached football since before a lot of us were alive, Jimbo Fisher, ditto, and things coming to a boiling point after a subpar performance in week 3. And then I'm over on TexAgs reading message board rumors, and Billy Lucci's reporting every other day about how things are just untenable and unworkable in the athletic complex. And my point is, it will radically go one way or the other, I think, this year. And if it goes poorly, there will be changes out there. And changes at any major program tend to have a ripple effect throughout the entire sport. They are 14 points per game worse today than they were in 2018. They are 10 points per game worse today than they were in 2020. So there's been a precipitous drop-off in offensive production. And it's been noticeable. It was so noticeable that Jimbo Fisher, to his credit, went and hired an offensive coordinator in Bobby Petrino. And a lot of us assumed that that means play calling duties are being handed over to Bobby Petrino. Now, that sounds easy, but if you have watched how hard Jimbo Fisher clings to those 93 laminated pieces of paper in his hand every Saturday, that's no easy thing. Jimbo Fisher identifies as the play caller, as the offensive mind for Texas A&M football. So if you think that's an easy decision, it's not. And I'm not here to make light of it. Maybe I'm a little bit, but I do understand the ramifications of someone who's been in the game that long, having what he may very well define as his identity stripped from him procedurally, even if it is for the betterment of the organization. Which brings me to what we heard yesterday. They also opened spring ball in College Station. And I want you to know now, if you think I sound negative, because there's been a lot of negativity about A&M, I'm still on board with the idea that this thing could work under Jimbo Fisher. I have not given up. I have not punted. I think it was a very, very tactful and timely hire in bringing Petrino on board. I think it can work. I think the pieces are there. I think all those things. But what I don't need to hear is this.
And what about who makes the play calls? Would that be him or you?
Yeah, I mean, we'll go through that as we go.
Go back to the back.
Plan on him making calls. Plan on him calling plays. I have no problem with that at all.
Josh, you heard him there. Don't take it out of context. How dare you? He clarified. He said that's the plan. Well, remember what we've said all along here. I didn't like what I heard yesterday. Because what we've said all along here is we won't know how this thing works out in spring. And that was my opinion, assuming that Jimbo Fisher was going to step to the podium and hold Petrino's hand up like a boxer that just won a match. Said, our offensive play caller, Robert Petrino. Even if he said that, I would tell you, yeah, it sounds good now. Let's see how they handle it come fall. So if I've already got Jimbo Fisher having to backtrack over his words in spring, in a move he obviously is not crazy about, and I don't think that's a shock to anyone, I feel uneasy. I feel uneasy because there are many ways we can go in College Station where we can't go as whence we came from. I'm not sure that's proper, but we're going to go with it anyway. We can't go backwards. We can't do that. There's a reason the hire was made. And so this could be, and I hope it is, much to do about nothing. But I have legitimate concerns about this because, again, what I have maintained, and this is always the case, is when there is an overhaul procedurally, in other words, play calling duties are reassigned in a program, you don't find out in spring whether it's for real. You don't find out in summer. You don't find out in fall camp. You don't find out until things go bad in the fall. So, Jesse, could I see, or Colin, could I see their schedule right quick? Because I don't know off the top of my head who they play. I want you to picture it's September now, and summer workouts are over and fall camp's over, and we've got A&M on the road. They're at Miami week 2. And they beat Miami last year. Underachievement offensively, but they beat Miami last year. Let's say they go down there and they've got 9 points on the board at the half. That point is when you'll find out how serious Jimbo Fisher is about totally relinquishing play calling duties. That's the way it was always going to be. That's not unique to him. That's the way it always has been. When someone who has clinged to a role for so long and is the head of the program voluntarily gives it up, you don't know if they really gave it up. They don't know. There have been times before where a head coach himself has been fully convinced, yep, I'm done with that. And then all of a sudden, what happens? What happens is they're 4-3 going into the bye week, and rumors start to circulate. It turns out he's meddling in the offense again. Turns out he's meddling in the defense again. This happens on Sundays just as well as it happens on Saturdays. And so that was already going to be where we are. Now I add in, we'll see. We'll just work it out as we go. No, we won't. We will not, sir. You're being paid a lot of money out there to make these decisions. And one of the decisions that is, it's not an either or. You know, it's not a choose your page. It is a must. Is I hired a guy and he's got to call the plays now. That's got to be the case at Texas A&M this year for them to have a shot. Because here's the other part. They play in the SEC West. So you see, even if he does bring Petrino in, and even if he does fully relinquish play calling duties, even if everything's handled the right way, it's going to be a supreme challenge. It's hard enough to win when you're doing everything the way you're supposed to be doing. That's the highest level of competition. That's why it can go so poorly when you're off pace. That's why it can go so poorly when internally you're a mess, because there are too many other programs that have their act together. And in the SEC, enough programs are going to have their act together to where we can't afford to have hesitation here. So here's what I hope. I hope that I am reading too much into this. And I hope that come fall, there's no doubt who's in charge when it comes to deciding what we're going to run on 2nd and 4 and 3rd and 1. And it's Bobby Petrino's animal out there for better or for worse. And it turns out better, and Texas A&M's a contender because that's what they should be, and those fans deserve that. If it's anything less, though, I don't think we'll remember the first press conference he had in the spring, but maybe we should keep it in mind.